This is my audience today.
Hi. Hello.
Okay. Which of these natural disasters is the most dangerous? Tornadoes, earthquakes, tsunamis, or volcanoes? All of these present different levels of threat, but can still be deadly. I'm sure many of you have heard about the most famous volcanic eruption known to date, Pompeii of 79 AD. Mount Vesuvius erupted 50 times, but that day it wiped out everyone in a matter of 24 hours. According to Volcano Discovery, there are roughly 50 to 70 volcanic eruptions every year. Some of these last hours, some of them even weeks. But the most important thing to keep in mind is to know how to identify these structures if you live near them, and how to react if there is emergency protocol put in place. In this presentation today, I'm going to talk about the important factors about volcanoes. I'm going to discuss three main types of formations, how they each are formed, and where they're located. But first, let me define what a volcano actually is. A volcano is an opening in the Earth's surface where heated magma and gases lie. Usually this happens over a hot spot or a fissure in the crust, which allows the magma to come up to the surface, which is then known as lava. Once the magma reaches the surface, it travels through a conduit, which then forms a volcanic structure. There are three main types: shield volcanoes, composite or stratovolcanoes, and calderas. Let me tell you how each of these form. Shield volcanoes have very gentle slopes and can range over a long distance in diameter. With me today, I have a diagram of what a shield volcano looks like because it can be hard to identify this in the real world. Mauna Loa in Hawaii is the largest shield volcano in the world. How these volcanoes are formed is all dependent on the magma composition. They're formed from divergent plate boundaries, which allows the basaltic magma to come up to the surface to fill in those open spaces. This is actually how the islands of Hawaii were formed. Because it has such a low silica content, means it has a very low viscosity, which in turn means that when it erupts, lava flows freely and a long distance and can travel a long time before it cools down. Composite or stratovolcanoes are the most common volcanic structures that we know. Examples like Mount St. Helens in Washington or Mount Fuji in Japan. Most of these structures are located in the Ring of Fire. The Ring of Fire consists of converging continental crust plates and subducting oceanic crust plates. What happens is the oceanic crust plate will subduct underneath the continental crust, which allows the magma to cool and increase pressure, which forms these mountain-like structures. Calderas are crater-like structures with really steep slopes. They are the most explosive volcanic structures. They form from overlaying a hot spot with extremely hot magma and volatile gases. Once that pressure is released, explosive gases emerge from underneath the crust and can cause serious damage. Although these are all dangerous, they present different effects and health hazards. Shield volcanoes release what's called lava flow. As recent as 2018, Mount Kilauea in Hawaii erupted and drove over 2,000 people out of their homes, according to journalist Jeremy Burke. As you can see here, this is what lava flow looks like, and you can tell just how dangerous it can be if you're located in this area. Although no one was killed, it demolished everyone's homes in the neighboring cities, agriculture, infrastructure, and even concrete highways. Even though there weren't a lot of gases released in the initial eruption, there was still a lot of lingering sulfur dioxide, which can cause respiratory problems for children, the elderly, and anyone with underlying respiratory problems. Some of the effects from composite or stratovolcanoes include pyroclastic flow, which is basically an avalanche of pulverized rock and ash that can travel up to 60 miles per hour. Another effect upon eruption is Lahars, which in 1980, when Mount St. Helens erupted, it released lahars that traveled down the slope at 20 miles per hour, killing nearly 60 people. Calderas are also known as supervolcanoes because of how explosive they can be. And since its last eruption 630,000 years ago, scientist in charge of Yellowstone Volcano Observatory, Jacob Lowenstern, predicts that if another eruption happens, it can send ash flow that can cover almost the entire U.S. This will create a domino effect in contamination to the air, to water, and surrounding agriculture. It may seem like it's impossible to avoid these catastrophic events, but I can assure you, there are ways to prepare and survive. After many years of studying volcanic behavior, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration and the Red Cross both have ready preparedness and emergency protocol in place if you live in an area with an active volcano. The NOAA has radio station frequencies for every part and every state of the U.S. so that you can tune in when there's an emergency going on around you. So to summarize what we learned here today is to know your NOAA frequencies if you are located in areas surrounded by active volcano. Know the catastrophic effects if you decide to stay. And most importantly, the safest decision you can make is to not put yourself in a situation where you live near an active volcano.